You're live. Hey, I am speaking to you. It's almost 10 p.m., or it's past 10 p.m. 10:10. And there were some interesting questions. You wanted to know if we went to the moon and what's on Mars. First, you have to realize that humans are a bag of water. We were genetically manufactured. Our soul wasn't, but our bodies were. And the movie The Matrix is exactly where we're at. We're somebody's ever ready bunny. And this little passion play has been going on for millions of years. Our solar system was the bus stop between many dimensions and solar systems, many species and creatures. What's known as the paranormal is actually normal. We're the paranormal. Or we exist in a linear world and the universe is not a linear place. It exists all at once. Oh, so there was a planet in the middle of our solar system. Actually, Earth is pretty far away from the sun to really have any good life. And there was a war that went on in our solar system, and the major planet was obliterated. Everything you see in Star Wars, Joseph Campbell told George Lucas. George Lucas was sitting at the feet of Joseph Campbell taking notes. Our moon is actually the Death Star. It is a artificial spaceship. It's the only moon in our solar system that doesn't revolve. We see the same side all the time. The Nazis went to the moon in the 40s. The end of World War II, the German people were bombed into the Stone Age, but the Nazis won. Our little Operation Paperclip brought 70,000 Nazis into our government. You know, Dr. Werner von Braun was just the poster child, The guy who ran NASA, killed millions of people. Well, we didn't really seem to care. The Catholic Church helped expedite the leaving of the Nazis out of Europe with papal passports. Nothing you think you know is true. We went, or well, not we, but there are no nation states. The UN was bought and sold and paid for by the Rockefeller family. They owned the property. They put up the first $1 million to build that building and to run it for the first 5 years. Most diseases are man-made. Cancer, when they started taking statistics on human mortality after the Civil War in the United States, 1 in 100 died of heart disease. At least not the cardiovascular heart disease we have that's caused by diet. Virtually every disease known to man is an environmental disease. And yet we are lied to. Donald Trump, he is the X-lax of the colon of the body politic. When he goes fake news, he's right. Everything in the news is fake, but it has been fake since Samaria, since they started advertising. Every war the United States was in was brought to us by the Pulitzers and the Uses. Spanish-American War, those guys were not a threat. We had battleships, steam engine, metal-clad, gigantic guns, and the Spanish still had wooden sailboats. We got Asia from the Spanish. The Spanish-American War gave us all the Caribbean, Hawaii. The Philippines were going to be a state of the Union. All we only decided not to do it in the 50s. Everything you know is wrong. And the only way you can tell what's true is with your heart. You have to think with your heart and feel with your head, meaning when something occurs to you, instead of feeling it and being emotional and letting your hormones make the decision for you, you should go, why did that person do that? What was the motivation? Why did that happen, right? And conversely, when you're thinking about the meaning to life, you should be using your heart because your heart is the radio to God. And God isn't some guy up in the clouds in a big chair. No, it's not even Gaia, the mother. It's both. Again, the movie The Matrix, where you had the Oracle and the Architect. I mean, go watch that movie. And movies are the basic. Hey, what's going on in the human experience? It's whenever you co-create, whenever you make art, truth is the product. Advertising, and that's called mind control. And our minds are so easily controlled because they're like a little radio. They run at a certain frequency. You tune into that frequency, bingo, they can tell you what do you think everyone's got one of these little screens you're looking at me at? With the smart meter now, every outlet is controlling your brain. Don't believe anything I tell you. Go find out for yourself. That's what an adept does, you know? Um, and all of this was shown to me by the Madame, Olga Glover. And whenever we walked around, people saw what they wanted to see of her. I saw a beautiful woman who was 4 foot 8 inches tall, but that was just kinda what she was, you know? That's what she appeared in the linear world. But when we walked through the shimmering back mirrored wall of her shop, and we walked into her, I don't even know what to call it, mystery world. It's kind of like Harry Potter, going to that, all over the Muggle world where these little refuges where the people of magic kind of hung out. And that's, I mean, again, that's another. Where did Miss Rollins, when she started writing Harry Potter, she was on welfare. She was like next to being, homeless on the street. And because her work was so resonating, she became a billionaire. So, I offer my services as your sensei, but that's your teacher. You have to find, meaning a teacher needs good students, adepts. Adepts are more than students. These are people who can put what people say is real off to the side and see for themselves. Instead of believing, they have faith in what God is, and God is love. And the essence of why we are here, God gives us, love gives us our existence. Our gift to love is to co-create. And in every day and every way, you adepts need to start to co-create. When you wake up, meditate. See what you're supposed to be doing that day. And it isn't just running errands. And whenever you do it in a blessed way, the most simplest things can bring you the greatest of truths. So, there's two of you watching. What kind of questions you got for me? And I'm glad the two of you who are watching are watching. I would surely like more. I would like, I always thought how it was explained to me, the live chat is supposed to be a, a community. And I kind of want you guys to be a community. Share your emails with each other. Start talking. Start helping. And the ones who communicate to me on my Gmail of the dude awake42 at Gmail have come to me with questions, and I've been happy to be able to help. A number of you have actually changed your lives, and that brings me the greatest pleasure when I can see folks stepping away of the illusion of their suffering and realize they can be whatever they want to be. And a number of you have gone to my blog spot, which is xratted.blogspot.com, and read my partial novel there. I got 26 novels, because no matter what happens to me, whatever the universe puts me in, I know A, I'll always be taken care of. B, my experiences are there for me to learn. And C, it makes great copy for my essays and my short stories and novels. And now I want to bring this out past this platform. I want to bring it as far as I can so more people can wake up! Wake up! And so try and get your friends, people who you talk to, who you are part of, and have them look at my YouTubes. I got about 84 now. And if you go all the way back to the beginning, and everything I do is a shamanic ceremony to alchemically change your base metal into gold, the alchemical gold, which is a monotonic gold of the prana and chi. And all the stories I talk about are, again, shamanic ceremony to change your frequency to a higher octave so you can ascend and not have to be stuck in the same loop of life after life after life. There's something more than this material five senses. And everything, again, that is paranormal, that is normal, is that other side bleeding through. And the only reason we feel fear about these things, like up at the school, right, which is, why I bought it, I had the money, I gave it to Olga because she needed the money, right? She's my bud. She needed some cash. And I got to school, and she said, you're the only guy I know who could probably do what we wanted, to use that energetic space to help people, to awake themselves. And they were artists, and art is one of the major, creation is the major tool of ascension. And so when people get stuck into, that, I'm a lawyer, doctor, Indian chief, whenever they get stuck into the illusion of their life. And that was one of the beauties of Inga. She wasn't stuck in that. Either was George. But their children sure were. They were stuck they were like stuck in concrete of fear. It's pretty amazing, but it wasn't just them. It's pretty much the human race. If you're a mud puppet, if you're a meat puppet, if you're the same sock puppet, it is only because you're stuck there by fear, and death, Buddha said, dying is like slipping out of a slipper. So the thing is, and why, suicide, in certain, when people are really suffering, I'm in great pain all the time, but people go, yeah, what's wrong with you? You get around, you walk, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but they have not an ounce of empathy because all they can do is think of themselves. They're miserable because they're stuck in that circular donut of kidding themselves. All of our politics, all of our materialism, all our envy, all our greed is all about fear. Oh, I'm gonna, I had a lot of stuff stuffed in that school was because it was like my warehouse, and I had many different lives, and I dragged my different lives and stored them there. Kind of like what the Egyptians did with their burial temples. Now, the pyramids are 100 million years old. Not the pyramids that we can see, but the pyramids underneath the pyramids. There are pyramids all over this planet. They're buried. When I went to Trinity, not only did I meet the old crone, but I met one of my teachers who was a great anthropologist. And he was one of the people, he put forth in the 20s a theory that, humans were slaves brought here by aliens, and, our solar system was millions of years old and had many, many, many different cultures that, were spread all over our solar system. And you hear about Donnie Trump wanting to start a space force. Well, we've had one since the 1940s. We were taken over by the Nazis, and they've gone out there. And now we don't have competing nation states. What we have on this planet is organized crime. And there's syndicates, right? The Illuminati is just a bunch of old guys, doing a ceremonial circle jerk with their, secret handshakes. But they're just parts, lowly parts of these syndicates, and that's people can't even see what's right in front of their face. So Donald Trump, Donald Trump is broken the illusion of what America is. Today is the 1 year anniversary of Charlottesville, and Charlottesville was, when I was a budding journalistic photographer, my first photo that I was assigned to as a new photojournalist was to photograph a lynching in Greensboro, North Carolina. And when I showed up, and I had a large format camera, it's one of those things you put on a tripod, has bellows, 10-inch negative. They come in these things you slide in, and that's great. You stop it all the way down, and then you have a big, heavy strobe, and like when you saw the old movies of the flash of light, that's what they were doing. So everything was in, it's called depth of field. Everything was in focus, and so I was there, and I was more focused about being focused until I kind of looked up and saw this black guy in his little jockey shorts, bobbed wired to a tree, and they had a noose around his neck over a limb onto a truck, and they were going to pull his head off of his body. And he was still alive, crying and shaking and in shock. And there were hundreds of people. It was like festival, festival. And the sheriff was next to me, and I turned to him and I said, "What did this guy do?" And he said, "Just take your picture and get out of here," right? So that kind of solidified my idea of the generic racist Southerner, right? And I grew up in New York City, and I kind of thought, I always thought of New York as a salad bowl, all these different cultures and races not being melted into Velveeta cheese, but living like different parts of a salad on top of each other and making a tasty treat. Until Rudy Giuliani had a protocol of his police, where he had secret police, within the police that would drive around New York City in unmarked cars, and these guys did not wear their badges or say they were police, and they would roll up on a black young man and shoot him 70 times. And these poor individuals would die of lead poisoning. And that's how this group would say it. And they, over I think, 3 year period, shot and killed 900 young black men who didn't do anything, you know? And it only stopped when these morons rolled up on a black kid around 35th Street, which was over on the east side, where all these brownstones were where the UN diplomats lived. And so the Secret Service protected them, right? So they had a little blockhouse at one end of the, near Second Avenue, another one over near Lexington. And they had TV cameras in the trees. And they caught these guys rolling up on this kid and killing him right on these steps of a brownstone. Now, that kid just happened to be a diplomat's son. So the Secret Service arrested these guys. Hey, we're cops. Anyway, so they had the videotape, and they were making, Rudy was making deals in the back room when somebody who was disgusted with this took that tape and gave it to a TV station, and that's when this whole thing stopped. And now you'd have to do some serious investigative work, but it's in the records. You could dig it out and see 900. And this was when Rudy was mayor. So kids, wake up! Because we're heading towards martial law. I've lived in countries, I lived in Australia and Canada when the Queen of England got pissed off at their governments and declared martial law. She did it like that. And got rid of all the politicians she didn't like and rebooted her idea of what those governments should be. And every time they have, any of those transnational meetings of the World Bank or the World This or the Burger Group or whoever, the Queen is always sitting on her throne and all of the politicians kneel to her. That girl's a reptile. You go watch David Icke. Another show read and listen to is Chris Hedgens. He'll turn your hair white. So, again, nothing is as it seems to be, but if you want to have a life, you have to make it. You can't just buy it at Walmart's. And these things were brought to me by a Madame Ogerkluber. And she would take me on journeys all through the universe by walking through her little mirrored wall. And that education was brought to me, over a 10-year period until she left. Because she said living in this dimension at this time was too painful for her. She had been here millennia, and she always was rooting for humanity to wake up, and that they never did, that they constantly, took the hook, line, and sinker. So whenever I think of all the things that I've seen, people go, heck, I started taking pictures of everything because I would tell these stories and people would never believe me, and I don't care. I keep saying, don't believe me. These are stories to edify you, to wake you up, to go check it out. The beauty of Google is, when Google became a thing, and I was like working for the desperate lawyers in the corporate scene, I would go out with these guys and I would tell these stories to them. And they would go, oh, I can't, you're full of crap, buddy. Why, it's against what you're saying. I can't even believe. And I said, go Google it. And they would. There's the Nazis were looking for the Aryan race, and they sent guys all over the place, and they found them in the Anunnakis. And The Anunnakis are not even one of the Hebrew tribes, but they're, considered Orthodox Jews. And they came from, I only have four teeth in my head, I can't pronounce it right, but there was a secret sect of dudes, basically criminals. They were a basic mob, and they basically were on the Silk Road from Persia into Europe. And why there is, the two different kinds of Muslims was there were the Muslims that first became Muslims when, the great wise person that invented Islam, he came from a very rich family and lived in a very rich town and had access to a lot of money. And that kind of grew the religion. But then he kind of ran out of cash and he got run out of town. So he had to hit the road. And he ran into these guys who were just straight up criminals. And he embraced their business model, which all religions are business models, right? Christianity, Judaism. I mean, even Buddha said, don't call me God and don't start a religion. After he died, they did. And that's because businessmen, like, the Roman Empire really has only lasted 200 years, but every 200 years they rebrand themselves. They call themselves different things. And around the fifth time around, they became the Holy Roman Empire at the Council of Nicaea. And there were all these guys who were stoned pagans, and then, the next week, they're bishops and cardinals and about four popes. So just don't believe anything I say. And Islam is a great religion. No, I said that wrong. Islam is a great spiritual culture because it is based on hospitality and love. Christianity is a great spiritual culture because it is based on forgiveness. Judaism is a great spiritual tradition because it's based on the clan. Again, don't believe anything I say. Go check it out. So, 28 minutes, just hit 28 minutes. And if I could read the things that you're putting up, I could, but my eyesight is so bad, I can't. But I love the fact that you guys are commenting. And what I do is go back and reread them and then try and talk about them later on. And if you contact me at my Gmail, the Dude Awake 42 at Gmail, and start a conversation there, any of you, I'm not quite sure about this, chat thing. You guys chat amongst yourselves, that would be great if you did. I would love it if you could. Bob, your feed has, it says I'm still live and still clicking away. I have no idea what I'm doing. And that would make me an adept. Because I have no idea what I'm doing, but I have faith that the spirit of love is always guiding me, taking care of me, making whatever I'm doing the co-creation of everything. So I do my best. My second wife she was triple Aries. If you read my story about her, she died and came back to life, and our spiritual teacher who came to age of 19, she had fend for herself. She came from the street, or not quite the street, she was in a rent-controlled apartment. From that, to being a multi-millionaire, she did it all herself. Nobody gave it to her. She didn't inherit anything like Donnie did. So, Johnny, that boy, he comes from a very cold family. I mean, all his folks actually come from the Nazi side of Germany, from back time. And where he comes from, he constantly talks about his mother from Scotland. But this guy, he's, one of the reptile families. And we all are. We all have our reptile brain, And the extraterrestrial cats and kittens have been involved with us. We are their product. We're a genetic toy of theirs. Matt Groening, who did The Simpsons, did another thing called Futurama, and there's a continuous character, these kind of reptile creatures from Oman 3 who invented us just so they could watch us as a TV show. When they got bored, they were going to cancel our show, which meant, throw an asteroid, what they did to the dinosaurs. And the other show that I love, South Park, the same thing, a bunch of, alien-looking, media moguls from another galaxy was going to cancel our show. So, we have done so much stupid crap as a species. We should, the thing I'm amazed is we're still here. That's what I'm amazed at. And we're not in some cave eating gruel. Go watch a movie called Zardos. And Sean Connery, the guy who was almost in the 60s, became really rich. And he wanted to be more, he said, I just don't want to be James Bond. I want to, so he kept doing that. No matter what you're going to pay me, that's why they had to go find other guys to be James Bond. Keep that thing going. And in the 70s, he did 5 or 6 really amazing movies, like The Men Who Would Be King, Time Bandits, Zardos, and another amazing movie called Everything You Know Isn't True. It's a movie made in 1973 or 4 or something around then. It was exactly what 9/11 was. I mean, exactly. It's like, the Al Qaeda guys watch that movie, say, hey, let's do this. But I don't think it was. Go watch that movie. So, 33 minutes. I'm going to sign off at 33:33. I like it when that happens. Synchronicity is always my fun thing. I look for it all the time. Every time I look at a clock and it says 11, 11, 12, 12, I go, I love you. Yes, I do. I love you.